Welcome back to the Divergent AF podcast. I'm your host, Selena Thompson, and tonight we have a very special guest, Lydia Denniston, and her username handle is Life of Lydi. I originally met Lydia, Lyd, as I usually do, scrolling on the For You page. And I think I was really drawn to your page because I think you were quite similar with the content I was putting out, and that was the real stuff, the vulnerable stuff. When did you get diagnosed? Because I don't actually even know this about you.
I feel like it's a series of events that kind of brings you to the catalyst of like questioning your diagnosis.
Yep.
For me, mine kind of came about in like with pregnancy and grief, and they're quite like contrasting topics. But my dad died when I was 40 weeks pregnant with my daughter, and then
Wow.
second round with my second daughter, my mother-in-law passed away suddenly too, and I think that like the feeling of like grief and anxiety and all these big things like that, plus also you're not able to like, what I can see now is medicating through like stimulants with like caffeine, because I really struggled, and so I had all this stuff going on. My friend was diagnosed with ADHD. It was through lockdown, and she was talking to me about it one day on the phone, and I was like, oh, that's weird. I do all those things, you know, the classic typical people on like Instagram, TikTok, it feeds you all the stuff, and the algorithm's actually super good at like being able to like target the right people. Have I got ADHD? I actually went to the doctor and I said, hey, I think I have like a bit of grief anxiety or death anxiety here, plus also I think I have ADHD. And I said, can you refer me to see a psychiatrist? And I did, and I was assessed and diagnosed and things like that, which was, I think it took 2 or 3 sessions. For me at the time, I had a super busy job. I was managing like a main logistics warehouse, and it had like 5 different sections under it, 30 people. I had a young family. My partner was also working full time, and it was just like all of these things kind of intermingled into one. Then all of a sudden it was like, I feel like I hit a wall. I was super productive sometimes, and the other days I'd just sit at my computer and be like, what, like, why can my brain not function? Yeah. And it was this weird, like contrast and stuff of being like, fuck, I'm really, really good at some things, but absolutely terrible at others. And it's confusing. And so it was that kind of path I went down. And that's how I kind of came to where I am, or where I was then when I was looking at, do I have ADHD or an anxiety, and like how it all works. And I got my diagnosis, and that's kind of, where what happened then. But what was the question? I don't even know what you asked.
I love that you just said, sorry, what's the question? Like, that's so classic. No, it was just about, how and when you got diagnosed. So how long ago was that?
So I think it was like...
So lockdown.
So that's when... So it's after lockdown.
So you're way ahead of me, because it'll be 3 years next
2022
month for me.
I'll be 3 years in September.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I was first.
You win.
It's so hard, isn't it? Because there's such this like what came first? What is it? Is it the depression, the anxiety, and then the ADHD, and then I don't know about you, but I went down the whole like highly sensitive person route. You know, there's just like so many things. It's like, what am I?
Especially like growing up as well, when you're told you're too sensitive, or you know, just to like get on with it, or you know, don't think about it so much, or there's all these things that we feed, and I think that it kind of feeds into that whole negative self-talk, and it manifests as anxiety. And then you know, especially if you are highly attuned to other people's emotions, and when you feel things so deeply, I just think there's this massive overlap, like
it really is. It's a lot. And what, you started on medication straight away?
I think when I first saw him, I was really heavily pregnant. I saw him a couple of times after that, and then I think I stopped because I had her, and then I went back to seeing him, and I got the medication at that point. It wasn't like breastfeeding or anything then. So, you know, you do special authority and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He said to me that either people can go take the medication like primarily, or you can do therapy. But he said to me, I think actually benefit from like a bit of a mixture of both. And he was like, do you want to try medication? I said, yeah, I do want to try it. And shit, it made a massive difference to me. It's just like, boom, my brain is...
What was your... So you started on Ritalin?
Yeah, it was not Ritalin brand, but it was like Rubifin, you know, the short-acting ones.
Yeah.
But fuck, I felt like...
What was your... Okay, describe your first day. Because I remember mine. You always remember your first time.
Well, so it was interesting, because I did a bit of like deep diving. I was like, do I give up caffeine? What do I do? Have you ever had caffeine withdrawals before?
See... So caffeine for me is something I've had to do socially. Like, I need a coffee or I'll do it. But I have caffeine naps. Like I can have caffeine, like or a Red Bull or a V, and I can get sleepy and go to sleep.
So that's interesting actually, because what happened to me is that because I stopped taking coffee, I felt like I went into a bit of like withdrawals from the caffeine, but then I was on stimulants and I got the worst dries. I remember driving to my daughter's daycare and thinking, I feel like I've been to a fucking music festival.
Yeah.
Like R&V, you know, when you're like kind of like
Yeah.
And that like gross feeling. And then my sister was like to me, I know a couple of people who'd taken the meds and they said to give it 2 weeks. And so I did give it 2 weeks and it got better, but it was, you know, titrating and getting the right dosage and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What did you say about caffeine?
So caffeine does nothing for me.
Oh, the sleep thing. Yeah. So the low methylphenidate, I was falling asleep. I was having naps. I think there's this interesting thing about it is just like everybody metabolizes the drug so differently.
Like caffeine to me is kind of more like a social thing. I don't have it every day. I'll do it to be like, yeah, let's meet for a coffee. I'll be like, cool, and I'll have a coffee. But it just was something that never kept me up or kept me awake or like I could have a coffee late at night or even a Red Bull and go to sleep. That's weird. But my first day of taking Ritalin, 10 mgs, I still remember it. It was I was Bradley Cooper in Limitless. I can write an email and I can like process, like I'm going to do that task and then I'm going to do that task, and I can task switch, like switching tabs, not just getting like a train and trying to put it onto another track for half an hour, and then you get used to that. And now I don't know about you, but I got told that my brain has changed on like a neurological level, so I can miss days, which is handy because we forget to get our script and stuff like that, but I still am essentially the same. Apparently that happens. It's like repairing a bridge almost, and that's why they say there's quite a lot of research. There's kind of stigma like, oh, don't medicate children, but they're looking at when you do medicate children early, it changes the neural pathways.
So you're like essentially rewiring your brain until those the connections are strong enough to then like be neuroplasticity essentially.
Yes, you just said it in a very smart way. Yeah, that's what I was trying to communicate. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and apparently that can happen. Yeah. So it's quite good because just recently I was off it for 6 days because I forgot to get my script. I could feel maybe a little bit of fog in the morning, but I didn't feel like back to the beginning, back to how I used to be.
Just do you happen to track your cycle and where you are?
No,
and
I
like
forget.
Compare your mood to that?
No, I'm really bad at that. It's one of those things that I know I should do.
I just think like
you're really big into the hormone side of it, eh? Like you've done a lot of research into it.
Yeah.
Yep.
But and I just I think as well, like I don't necessarily want to go down like talking about the perimenopause thing, but it is something to kind of be aware of, especially because so many women are being diagnosed in their mid-30s, even like 40s and like early 50s and stuff like that, and that is like prime time for perimenopause, which can last 7 to 10 years, and your estrogen is all over the fucking place. But estrogen is so important for dopamine. And I think that people are looking at themselves and thinking, and this is like women in general, looking and thinking in that follicular part of your cycle in the first 2 weeks pre-ovulation or whatever it is, fuck, I'm like super energetic. I've got like my brain works so well. I'm like really good with people. I can do all this work. My productivity is so high. And then like, ovulation, and then you go into the like luteal phase with the progesterone rising, and then you're just like, oh my God, I absolutely feel like I can't pull my shit together. And it just goes to show like estrogen is like king for ADHD in women. But if you like compare the two, despite the ADHD thing, I think a lot of women, that estrogen is so important for this, and apparently we have estrogen receptors in every cell in our body or something like that, and so we are so attuned to estrogen and the fluctuations in it, that's why I asked you about the hormones thing, because you might find that for me, and
when you're talking, like it makes so much sense, but I don't know what's wrong with me. Well, there's a few things, but I've always been one of those people with periods and cycles where it's almost like a denial. I compare it to when you've got babies, right? And there's this whole, they're going through this regression and they're going through this sleep regression. If I don't know about it, then it's almost like it won't come into fruition. If you're aware that this is how you should be feeling in a certain period or a day, it's like, does that impact
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I will say that the last 3 or 4 days I've been like having such a bad depressive episode, and then I got my period today. It's like, yeah, that was the PMDD. Yeah, that wasn't it?
Have you talked about PMDD on your podcast?
I have, just in terms of how I found out that I had it, and that was coming off sertraline cold turkey, which was bad advice, but not in depth because but there's so much to say on it, and a lot of people don't talk about it, but I get it like quite debilitating, but I do. It's this whole denial thing, but I'm at this point now. This happens every month, and maybe it might be a bit easier on everyone or yourself if it's like, okay, like this is why I just feel like life is bleak and I can't get out of bed, and like it really hits me, and it's horrible, and it's it'll be like I want to say like hopefully a week or less than a week. And then I get my period, it's like the light's gone on again. It doesn't matter what I do, like exercise, diet, meditation, journaling, just all these things that I do right that I know help me on a chemical level. You've got these glasses on, these dark glasses on. It just like, it doesn't matter. It just puts this darkness into your outlook on life, and it's so hard to explain it to people. You can't just snap out of it, But it's really powerful.
Yeah. How I would like describe it is a blanket of sadness. One day you just wake up and you're like, oh, my whole body feels sad. It's really hard to explain to people who don't get it. It's like overnight depression. You're hit by a bus with depression and this like melancholy feeling of sadness. No one likes me. My world feels hopeless. I can't shift this mood. And, one day I had it so badly. I remember sitting on the ground and thinking, what the fuck is going on? Like, what is causing this? And every other time, something bad might happen. Like someone might have said something to you at work and you think about it and you're stewing on it, or someone might have passed away or is sick or something like that. There's a reason that you feel a certain way, but with PMDD, you don't, and you can't shift it. You can't rationally think out of it.
No, you can't. That's like that's what scares me about it, is that even though I go through it every month, it will be over. When you're in it, it doesn't matter how many rodeos you've gone through. It's like an episode in a way,
Yeah.
It's really hard, and but it's more common than people think or want to talk about. And I had to diagnose it myself.
Same.
Yeah, I mean, as per, but
after you deep dive and you go on these forums and things like that, and you're like, oh, this makes sense.
Yeah, well, I'd found this PMDD tracking app because I was, we're like not dumb people. We're really good at pattern recognition, right? Why is this happening every month, like every 3 weeks, And then I looked into it, and then you go down the rabbit hole, and you do find some people are open and talking about it, but it's like, I've never heard of this. Like, why is this not talked about more? Because it's like and it's quite comorbid with autism and ADHD.
Yeah.
You know?
Really high incidence. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, God, what else,
Yeah. What else do you want to just
I know. I feel like we just get so many acronyms on us,
Yeah. It's so true, actually. One thing I read about is that PMDD and when you're talking and it's just like, oh, we're gone. It's out of my head.
Well, that's who we are. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's what it is. It's talking about sensitivity. Okay. So one of the theories around PMDD is that people who are like highly sensitive, and it's just like, I'm just going to tangent here slightly and I'll come back to it.
Yeah.
I saw a thing the other day and it was a question that they asked somebody and they said, would you rather break your arm or would you rather lose somebody that you love? And the person was, oh, I'd rather break my arm. And they said, well, the thing is like, they're both painful, but you don't realize is that pain hurts so much that you'd rather break your arm. It's like, it's still valid and it's still painful. And I thought, fuck, that's a really good way to look at it.
It is, but even though you don't see it, it's more painful.
It's more painful. And when you think about people who are highly sensitive and you go back to like the whole like shifts in hormones and things like that, I genuinely believe from my own experience, anecdotal, and also like from what I have read, is that people who are HSPs they feel things on such a deep level, and they can pick up on other people's energy and the mood in rooms and all these things like that. But hormones, especially when they change to different parts of your cycle, whatever it is, you feel it, and you can't explain that to a doctor or someone who doesn't understand it, because they think, oh, you've got depression or we should medicate you or whatever like that. But no, it's for such a short amount of time, and it is linked to your cycle. And it's so hard to explain that to people.
Yeah, it is. And I don't know, like with my PMDD, like what happened with me is I found out that the best medication was sertraline. So I'd taken away the scaffolding that I'd had my whole life since I got my period without meaning to. So that's why I went back on it. And so I still get it, but it was like a drop off a cliff when I wasn't on sertraline. Now it's like kind of big potholes lately, but not as existential, if that makes sense. But it's rough. I feel like, you know, I don't want to be like around people during that time either, like, because I just can't even mask. But then that makes it probably worse, because then you're in your head more. But it's just, you just can't like snap out of it.
You absolutely can't.
You can't.
And that's what's really scary.
Yeah, it is
I'd say
scary.
9 times out of 10, everything else you can be like, there's a reason I feel this way.
Yeah.
But you know you feel that way, but you just can't shift it.
No. And even like you try and, you know, I always do, I've got all these like little methods and stuff that I'm like, okay, if I just have to go do this. And it's like, that doesn't even work. And it's scary. It's like, until next time, bitch, you know. The whole highly sensitive person route, did you go into that before ADHD diagnosis or after?
I went into it after, but I actually was seeing a psychologist at the time to do with grief, and she did like a lot of work with me on like inner child bonding. And I love some of the things that she was working with. And one day I was telling her about how essentially describing what it is to be a highly sensitive person, and she said there's a really good book. I think it's called The Highly Sensitive Person. I can't remember what it was by.
I've read that, and The Child. Have you? And The Parent.
Yeah. And I really want to read that.
A collection. Yeah.
And that kind of like got me onto that cycle. But you know, your whole life when you were told you're too sensitive, or you know, you're overreacting, or you're being a drama queen, the list goes on, a million things that people could describe you as, and it's just like you definitely internalize a lot of that and think there's something wrong with me. I don't fit in the world.
Yeah.
But yet you feel things so deeply.
It is. I mean, I don't know about you, but like anyone that knows me, you know, my friends from childhood would know that like I was always the kid that just cried all the time at school, like every drop off, every school photo. For some reason, I don't know, maybe it was overwhelming because there was a lot going on. But I always cried, and like I can still remember the moments where I just felt like I was so overwhelmed by like people and noise, and I was so little and just scared. But then just having comments like, "Oh, Selena's always crying. You're just so sensitive, and you've just got to toughen up." And it's like, I don't know about you, but I've really tried. Like, but now I've come to peace with that's just a part of me. I don't think I'm as sensitive, but I know that it's there, but I don't deny it. I like this actually can be used in really great ways in terms of emotional intelligence, connecting with people. You'll meet someone and they'll just like tell you their life story, and they'll be like, I've never told anyone that before. And
happens
I'm like, it's all good. Yeah. It's all good. I get that all the time, you know? And that's really cool. But then also the flip side is like, you know, we take on a lot of energy, you know?
Yeah.
Like a lot, right? Like a sponge. Yeah. And then, so I had gotten into the highly sensitive thing before the ADHD because, you know, like we always knew we're different, right? Just searching for kind of like an answer. So it was like HSP, then it was ADHD. Well, before that, like well back, it was, you know, anxiety, depression, HSP, ADHD. But then it was like, I feel like I'm still, it's not just ADHD, you know?
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think of like, I don't know how I got onto it. Actually, you know what it was? It's the algorithm always diagnoses me or finds out what's wrong with me. Like it knows in my head. And I'd come up with this quiz, and it was this Myers-Briggs personality test. And you know how you hear about the big 5?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember doing all that because I did psychology, and you know, the big 5 and stuff, it's like, yeah, introvert, neuroticism, rah, rah, rah. But then I was like, 16 types. I'm like, this is quite specialized, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then I did one, and they're all acronyms, right? And so I didn't know what it was and results, and it was this INFJ, and it had the percentage in the world, 1% or like something. Is that it?
I think it's like 1 to 3 or something.
Yeah. And I was like,
is that the rarest? Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, no. Like, I might just like, I need to do another test, you know. And so then I did a few other ones, and I kept getting the same, and I was like, I really am different, aren't I? But then when I learned all about it and then I was reading it and it was like, oh my God, this is so me. Like the paradoxes of it that I thought were just me that, you know, you silently don't say out loud. And
It describes exactly
yes.
like you.
Yeah. Like the memes that we send each other and it's like, oh yeah.
And
so
you think you're like, oh, I thought I was special, but actually this is
well, we
this is my
are
whole
like
personality.
1 to 3%, but
it's
like so
it's comforting,
specific, eh? Like
it's
so specific, bang on. It's like, whoa, it's like that. It's like inside my head, that meme.
I watched something the other day. I can't
Yeah.
remember if I sent it to you or not, and it was talking about you know, about INFJ and then like what they do and their behaviors and things like that. And one of them was so specific that I was like,
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm watching this, because for ages I've been thinking about it, and it's like a really major thing for me. Is I know a lot of random shit, because obviously, you know, ADHD people, we deep dive. We're like, oh my God, where have I seen that person before? Or how does this work? And then you're like, finding these things out. Someone says, oh, they're broken up with this person, and you're like, okay, well, let me figure out like why, or you know,
I've seen that actor in that movie before, you know, and like just
you just need to know. And just like this raft of things that you know. And one thing about INFJs, which I found was amazingly accurate for me, was it was saying that we often doubt our competence, and that we believe that we don't know enough about something. So therefore we get like decision paralysis and we don't do anything about it. And that's my main problem at the moment, is like I'm so fucking passionate about like mental health awareness and women's health and like trying to educate people and like talk about it. But then I worry that people are going to be like, well, you don't have a qualification in that. You don't have you're not a doctor or things. So I don't say much about it. But then I'm talking to people at work, and then I'm helping all these people, and then it's just this weird, it is like paradoxes.
We just fact check ourselves too much.
Too much?
Yeah. It's like we're not the authority. Like even when I you know, do like my episode about my daughter that was sick, like so many times, it's like this is not like a medical one, and I'm not, you know, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not like teaching you stuff. Like I'll fact check myself, Wikipedia myself. I'm like, I'm not an authority because of this, but then when you actually stand back and think about it, it's like, oh no, but actually I diagnosed it, you know, when doctors and specialists couldn't. I think I'm quite open-minded in that. Just because you have a piece of paper, you know, I don't think anyone knows everything.
Yeah.
You know, I really don't. I think, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a specialist, but in terms of like the web of how I got to that answer and the canvassing of information, you know, which most doctors would not have gone to those lengths. I think there can be some credit or some weight given to, you know, people that deep dive. You know, just because you've got a certificate, you know, doesn't mean you ever stop. You just think like we don't stop learning.
No,
we never do. We never stop learning, right?
It's like an itch that you can't scratch.
Yeah.
I think, that time that I was saying to you, like it is like a brain boner. Like you absolutely just
I love that.
You have to, like, what am I doing with my hand? But like this.
Like, do you notice how people on social media are just like you know how they do this? Like, so
were you ever told when you were younger? Like, this is one thing I always get feedback with, is that I'm like too animated and I use my hands too much, because when and I don't know if this is an ADHD thing or just in general, I see things visually. So if I'm talking about a box, I'll like go like this.
Oh yeah.
It's interesting, because we so visually see things, and it's like there for us, but it's interesting how everyone recalls information so differently.
I'm visual as well, because even, you know, I'd go to lectures at university, tangent, and if there wasn't like a slideshow and they're just talking, I don't know what they've just said, because I can't see anything.
I remember when I was younger going to a lecture at uni, like before failing it, because I was shit at uni when I first went.
What did you study when you first?
I think I started doing psychology, and then I quickly tangent in, and then I went to do law. But we had a Otago, we had a flat party. We had a flat party, and it like got out of control, and you know, like couches got burned, and people just like the whole house pretty much got fucked. And my dad was like, I suggest you like sort your shit out, kind of thing, which is fair enough. And then I left and joined the Air Force after that.
Yeah. Oh, so when was that? How old were you when you did that?
Like, I think I turned 21 on a recruit course, so I've been for like 14 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's funny, because I think that in some ways being in the Defence Force and in a career where you change your job so often, I think the posting cycle is around like 18 months, 2 years-ish.
Yeah.
That's quite good for people, because I think a lot of ADHD people need that novelty and they need like to be constantly learning things. And so I actually think that has benefited me, which is why it's kind of been masked for a long time.
So have you lived in a lot of different places?
Not really. I mean, just the normal training in Woodburn, and then Ohakia, which is, outside of Palmerston North, and then Auckland for a bit, where I studied.
Were you in Whenuapai?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was up there.
Yeah.
Might have seen you around back in the day.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so interesting.
Because I did work paid for me before I commissioned to do a degree. And so before I became a logistics officer, I studied business and I did HR and marketing. I wish that, like, going into it now, and I'm thinking, like, I definitely want to study. Like, I love neuroscience. I love how people think and, like, our brains and things like that, and just our chemistry, all these things like that. So it's weird, like, you just kind of, I think you kind of reach a realization one day where you have to understand that with ADHD, we do novelty seek and we love to investigate things and learn all the time. I'm trying to align my career and what I do with having ADHD. I'm a massively values-driven person. I'm trying to find meaning in my life and purpose and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to be in a kind of like a corporate career, because I'm a supply chain manager now, but I'm trying to do something where I feel like I can be creative and have an outlet and be able to inspire and influence people. And like the INFJ thing, a big part of it is advocacy, and I have got myself in trouble quite a few times because I sometimes can't stop by trying to like help people, or I don't know when to stop sometimes.
I love the smell of an underdog fight in the morning. Like, if there's an underdog fight, I'll be there, even if it's not my fight. Like, I'm really passionate about just like sticking up for minorities. And I think also, because I did law, I see being a lawyer is almost like a tool in the toolkit now. I know how to use it. But then I've also had to learn that, you can just exhaust yourself from getting involved in so many battles that aren't yours. Now I always have to make a call. What am I going to get out of it? You almost have to be selfish.
You need to establish really good emotional
boundaries. Or just like protect
boundaries.
Your own energy, because I can get involved and help everyone, but then I am so depleted.
I think as a mother as well, before I had kids, I would let everyone like walk all over me, and I would, when someone comes to you with a problem and then it becomes your problem, and how did this end up being me? And since having kids, I've got better over time at being able to say no and being like, is this actually serving me, and is it going to deplete me of energy? But I think that's a skill that takes years to develop.
It is, and it was for me too, because I actually didn't develop for me after I had kids. It's only been very recently. It actually started developing when my daughter got sick, and I had to make a decision of listening to what everyone was telling me or going with my instinct and fighting. And I don't regret that for 1 second. And it was more just like, what was the question again?
I was like listening to you as well.
Yeah, I know. And then I was listening to you, and then I had something to say that there was a point to it. And then
I was still thinking about NCAP. I found out what it means. Shall we go back? We'll go back to what you said.
I don't even remember I was trying to land my plane. I don't know where I was going.
Oh, you were saying about how yours developed after having kids.
Oh, yes. In terms of, was it like kind of boundaries, or?
Sometimes you deal with really difficult people in life. And
always.
At the time,
you always will, eh?
You're like, and it's I've dealt with some real see you next Tuesdays in the last like 3 to 4 years, that at the time they generally make me want to like pull my hair out because they're so stressful to deal with. But you learn so much from those experiences, and I think that over time you just like put a little tool in your tool belt. And it gets easier.
It kind of builds resilience for dealing with assholes more, I was just going to go into the I was just actually going to research, because we actually should probably just say what an INFJ is.
Of course.
Yeah.
So
why are they so rare? Because of their dominant perceiving function, introverted intuition. I did see one thing, and it said being an INFJ is being born to understand everyone, but born to be misunderstood.
Yeah.
It feels like I can understand everyone, and I can always look at every angle and not see someone as like good or bad, black and white.
Yeah.
and look
Same.
at, motivations and just like all these things, right, that could lead someone into a behavior and action. But then other people are just so like bad, good.
I think what's super interesting, if you've listened to Invisibilia,
No.
they talk about why we believe it's in the way that we think and act and stuff like that. And it's every episode talks about a case study. It's about, and they get psychologists and stuff in there to talk about why people think the way that they do.
Yeah.
And one of the really good ones was talking about categorization and why we categorize people. And it changed my perspective a lot, because I think that too, about the fact that it's safer for us to assume, if somebody is like good or bad or whatever, because it's easy for us to comprehend than somebody can be on a spectrum. But I think as human beings, we have to understand that you can have the most lovely person, but they have done the most like horrible things, and that can exist, or vice versa. It's like somebody might say a really, really horrible thing to you, but you have to have the empathy and understanding to understand that that doesn't define them, that one behavior, that they're so much more complex than that.
Yeah. And I'm really big into Carl Jung and about integrating the shadow. Let's say just talk about, Nazi Germany, and it's like, that could never have been me. I could never have done that. And it's anyone can do atrocious things in the right circumstances. You put a good person in bad situations and they will do bad things. And that's anyone, you're not above it or anything like that. And I think once you can come to terms with that and be at peace with it, it's just integrating both sides.
Yeah. That shadow self was a major. I think that's changed a lot of how I think about myself and other people, and understanding that part of us, inevitably, you cannot change it or anything. You just have to learn to accept that we all think and do really terrible things.
Yeah, that's human nature.
It doesn't mean it is human nature. It doesn't mean we're going to act on it. But understanding that in yourself, and then you projecting and seeing that in other people, that is so helpful for being able to provide yourself with the forgiveness to be like, hey, just because I thought that terrible thing, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm a bad person.
Yeah, it's all about, just coming to terms with that you can do abhorrent things. And once you're at peace with that, then it's kind of, you just get a better understanding of what is standing in front of you sometimes. Darkness that's projecting onto you from other people. It gives you just, and a peace, and not feeling so hurt or like upset by it. We've all got a monster in us in the right circumstances, 100%. No one is free of it. But I don't know. We're such deep people. we just go on these levels, eh?
And I listened to there's a neuroscientist on Instagram. Her name's Dr. Rachel. I can't remember her last name, but she's Scottish. I don't know if you follow her. She said people that are neurodivergent, they tend to have really intense strengths and really intense weaknesses. And people that are neurotypical, you don't really notice as much. They're just like kind of normal people, whatever. She said something that changed her thinking a lot was, instead of focusing all of her energy on like what things she's trying to change with her weaknesses, she focuses 90% of her energy on her strengths and 10% on the things that completely changes my perspective. Because I think for a lot of our lives, we grow up thinking we're too sensitive or we're too much, or people don't understand us, so we are misunderstood. And the realization for me was, but I am sensitive, and I do feel things deeply, and I think about things so much that I genuinely think I'm going crazy because I think so deeply. But I think it's a beautiful thing in the world that we live in
especially when it's used in the right way. And I
100%.
feel like doing like my social media and doing a podcast, the doors that it's open to meet so many different people, it blows my mind. And I know it's because of the way that I can just read people or like connect with people from all different walks of life and have just no judgment. If you're not hurting or harming anyone, I can kind of just take people as they are, and then I really enjoy it. So I honestly feel like it's kind of my calling or my passion, and that's also to share narratives, because it's kind of goes back to the thing, what am I an expert in? All I know is my truth and my life and what's going on. I'm an expert at that, and I can share that. And, I know what it's like to live ADHD life and live this life. If I just stick to what I know, then it makes it a hell of a lot easier. I'm not sitting here stressing, thinking I haven't researched this or I haven't done this. I'm not out here to teach. It's more just enlighten and share. And I think when people feel that you're communicating something that, hits them and they feel it, and they feel accepted and they feel seen and they feel more confident to go out and be who they are, you know?
Yeah.
That's what does it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
But that's a special trait for people like you and me. Like you can't fake to get on the level we get on, you know?
You actually can't, eh?
No, you can't. You can't.
And that's why I think, like, I think that the one thing I always struggled with my whole life is, and I wish that I'd seen it earlier, is that you actually have to look at your personality type and you have to look at your strengths and weaknesses, and you have to like get in there and be like, okay, what are my strengths? How do I play to my strengths? Because you like, why are we trying to change ourselves? Why?
What I've learned is that you're just going to spend all your life just fighting the current, you know, and it's just, I mean, I've tried everything in the world to try and change, to not be sensitive or to not be this. I just think about all the time I've wasted and the energy I've wasted when it's just inherently who you are. When you lean into who and what you are, right, and your strengths, and also acknowledge, hey, it's like not good in that circumstance, but it's incredible in this circumstance, lean into it. It makes you a hell of a lot happier and gives you peace. And I think good things come from it as well.
Yeah.
Organically.
And I think something that really resonates with me is that, so I've always been really like open and honest about stuff. And sometimes to a fault, because I think sometimes people can be like, what? We're so used to the whole like, how do we act and like, what are we supposed to say and stuff like that. Personally, I'd rather be honest and open about something and have that vulnerability in part of me, because what I've noticed is the more I'm doing that, the more that people are starting to open up and talk about these things. And I think it's really beautiful.
Yeah, same. But do you find that there's been a lot of times, I mean, I still experience this, you get scapegoated really quickly, you know, if like you're open, you know, and they almost like use it against you, or they make, and that's horrible because that's not the reason why you share things. But really it's kind of a projection of, they actually are so scared to own it themselves that they almost just like dump all the projection onto you and point your finger at you. But it's like, oh, you think that too, and you do that too, but I'm the one saying it out loud.
Yeah, so true, eh? I think projection is a super fascinating thing.
It is, isn't it?
When you can understand how many people project stuff and how they feel about themselves and how it manifests in terms of like what they say about other people or how they act and stuff like that.
Yes.
That flipped my reality so much, because I stopped taking things personally.
And
when I realized, I was like, all your experiences in your life created this like version of what's right and what's wrong to you and your beliefs and things like that. Your frame of reference is not actually mine at all. So if you're telling me I should or shouldn't be doing something, that's actually nothing to do with me.
No,
that's
it's because you can't own it and you're terrified of that, or like you're insecure about that.
Yeah.
But you can't tell the people that project that they project either.
Nah.
You know?
You actually can't.
No, you just got to walk away. But I don't know, do you sometimes kind of giggle inside because you're like watching this unfold in front of you and someone's talking at you, like, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But there's just like no point, because you just are not on this level of understanding. And so I'm just going to smile and just, that's it.
Yeah. So I come across as like quite direct and assertive, but I'm also like very, what's the word? It's obviously sensitive. But, fucking hell. I was going to go somewhere with that. Oh, yeah. Do you find that people think of you as like, can be quite cold sometimes? Like, because you can be, like, they look at you and be like, why are you being so like straight up about something? Or
like
it's
blunt.
hard to explain. Yeah, like I got called Ice Queen at school, and like I'm definitely not that person now.
That's like a compliment. I never got called that. I'd be
really
like, that's a flex, because I was like sensitive.
Yeah, but it was like in a I don't actually hold that anymore. I don't really care, but
I mean, you just remembered it, but you don't hold on to it.
Yeah, so
I think that's a flex. I remember one time I got called a bitch, and I'm like,
one time?
Yeah, like, well, you know, it was at school, so that was like quite a big word at school.
Yeah.
And it was just like, you're just such a bitch. And I'm like, am I? Because I'm always sensitive and crying and a wuss. So like I was just quite stoked about that, you know?
It's so funny how we like put up this persona and then we're just like completely different behind it all. I think as well, like obviously we can't compare ourselves to how we were at school, because like I often go back there and I'm like, well, you don't even know yourself at school. Like you're literally like 50 versions behind. But
it is,
at the
right?
same time, it's like it's this weird thing that we just seem to always go back to that one time.
Anyway. That one time at band camp, definitely. It's just
Yeah.
like the inner child stuff. I think because I think it's just because it's the childhood trauma probably. I don't know. The childhood memories always stick with you, eh?
Yeah, they do.
And they're really random, but they obviously had some kind of an impact. Or
So when you were growing up, I remember my friends would be like to me, "You have such a random memory," but I have like trivial memories. Like mine are always attached to like images and things like that. But they'll be like, "Oh, can you remember this time that we did this?" And I was like, "No, I don't remember that." But I remember this very cryptic, like weird thing about a certain place or something like that. Are your memories like that?
No, I get told I've got a memory. Is it a memory like an elephant? Is the elephant the one that remembers everything?
Oh, so you remember everything?
Not the goldfish. Do elephants remember everything?
No,
I don't know. Like I've got, it's like you've got a memory like an elephant. That always really confuses me. Do they actually remember everything? I know the goldfish doesn't. No, I remember everything.
Well, I mean, to be fair, like lots of human beings probably don't have very good memories.
I can recall everything except for things like where I put my keys, or where I put the headphones, or like that kind of stuff. But I could recall things from like years ago and memories that it's just, astounding. And they come up when I'm driving somewhere and it's like, oh, I remember that. Yeah, just like, yeah, no.
Do they all have emotions though?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're like tied to some emotional...
No, some of them are really, really random. I'll just give you like a really weird example. But I remember sitting on a school bus on a school trip with my friend Hannah, still my friend, and driving over the harbour bridge from school, and we're going on a school trip, and there's this like little island, and she's like, that's called Rat Island because I've been there once and it's covered with rats. And I always think of that whenever I drive over the harbour bridge, and it was like,
oh yeah, that's like,
it wasn't like scary, it was just like, but like I remember weird stuff like that all the time.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean, like by cryptic.
Yeah,
like
but like,
little
and it wasn't like,
of...
yeah. But then I also remember obviously like really emotional stuff that always will stick with me, but just random things that it's like, maybe it takes up so much room in my brain. Maybe that's why I can't remember things like forgetting to pick the dog up from daycare and having to drive back, or like, where's the keys, or, just stuff like that. It's, I don't know.
Forgetting to pick up to do stuff is like, I forget the kids' bags. Today I forgot their bikes from daycare that I put over the fence to pick up.
Yeah.
It's so easy to do, eh?
Yeah.
So easy.
The worst is like, I don't know if this happens to you, but like I would have had to do a few drop-offs and I get somewhere and then I'm like, holy shit, did I drop them off? And I like look in the back seat.
I did that the other day. Do you know what's fucked? It's like your brain, eh? You go to get in the car, and I've been like
no memory.
It's been a hot car, and then you get in the car, and you're like, "Oh, what if I forgot to drop the kids off?" Yep. And it's been,
that's like,
our brains are fucked.
That's like a real trauma. I don't know why it's never happened to me, but like that to me is the scariest thing. So whenever I get somewhere after I've done drop-offs, I'm like, are they in the car still?
Yeah.
And they're not, but it's just, and then I'm like, oh, I have to really dig back. I'm like, no, I did walk in and I did do that. It's like you're in automatic mode.
Yeah.
I
just think like, because obviously you've got all your other stuff that you're like going through as well.
Yeah.
You talk about that on your thing, eh?
I mean, what part? Nah, I'm not going to talk about that yet.
Oh, yeah.
One day I will, but I like to process things and then talk about it. Not like while I'm going through it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just my way of dealing with it. When I'm through the tunnel, even with Marnie's medical stuff, I went through it, and then when it was resolved, I'd worked through it, and then I could talk about it.
Yeah.
But if I was doing it at the time, like, God, that would have had a different flavour. Like,
yeah.
But one day I will get my day in court, or my day in justice, but until then, which is annoying because I do want to talk about stuff, but I just tell myself, like, the time will come, that will be helpful for people eventually,
Yeah.
But I think I've got to live it first.
Yeah. The reason that I was asking about it is because I find that, like with ADHD, it is very complex, like the genetic component, the environmental piece, the like consistent negative like reinforcement when you're younger in terms of like, and then the like overstimulation or that sensory stuff, like there's this level of complexity and stuff like that. And I just think that it is a situation where there are so many other comorbidities and stuff. So
I know, right?
it's so hard to tell. Recently, I'm just like, fuck, it is what it is. I'm just going to be me, and it actually is a lot easier because I tend to overthink everything.
No shit.
And try to find answers for stuff.
Yeah.
And solutions.
Yeah. I know, sometimes it's like, fucking cool your jets, but my mind is constantly analysing, and I feel like a lot of people can't keep up.
No.
I feel like you can, and like, yeah, we could go on different ways, but it's like, oh my God, have you thought how high level thinking of this thing and how this is all connected?
Yeah.
There's not many people that can like keep up. I almost feel like Kanye West sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Like the look you get. And it's like, well, just wait until it unfolds, motherfucker, But I just kind of pick my audience, which is very small. But my brain is low complex. Going back to just when you said how you were offered medication or therapy, I think that was amazing, because I was never offered therapy. It was just like medication. And it wasn't until a year of medication where I was like, I'm still miserable. I still have no self-esteem. I didn't actually realize that was such a big issue to deal with. And that was not the medication and the symptoms. It was the narrative of your identity leading up all your life. That to me was the biggest chunk of being diagnosed. That's the biggest mindfuck of it all, I think.
100%. The actual, like
the unraveling of all this shit, right?
Yeah. You're like, who the fuck am I?
Yes.
You literally don't know who you are.
Yeah. That is exactly
and everything
what
that you've told yourself.
Yeah, or you've been told you are.
Yeah.
I reckon that's actually the biggest mindfuck for anyone that's like diagnosed, this identity crisis of, no, actually, what do I like, or who am I, or who have I just been trying to fit in to be?
Who's this like quirky girl who's always been a bit different and stuff? And it's like, no, actually, like you fit all these ADHD. But it's like,
yeah.
Okay. It's like, oh, I'm just like this neurodivergent person. But it's comforting in a lot of ways, because you can relate so hard to other people who are in the same boat, because your whole life you grow up and you think, I'm so fucking weird, like,
and you don't talk about it, like you don't say all these things out loud. You just
like internalize all the stuff.
No, I used to be like Secret Life of Selena, of like all these weird things that only I thought of.
Yeah.
How I used to like hate going to school because of the seams and the socks.
My daughter's doing that at the moment with the seams of socks.
Yeah. And
she
like,
really
but not saying anything, because it's like, well, everyone else is fine with socks,
Yeah.
Or just little weird things like that, and you're just too embarrassed to say it out loud. My daughter is me, and all the things, like she wants to eat dry 2-minute noodles with the flavouring on it because she likes the crunch. She doesn't like fruit, but she likes dried fruit, and really about texture. And then she doesn't like tight clothing, and she doesn't like having her wet hair on her back after a shower or a bath. Like, makes her really upset. Just all these things that were me. It's such a thing. I never changed. Obviously, I can like put up with socks in a social situation and things like that, where I pick the right socks. That kind of stuff never leaves you. And I think the earlier you teach them to be accepting of it, and I'm like, oh, look, so-and-so, they don't like it, I don't like it. That makes them feel like it's cool, or it's just like normal, right? All you want to hear when you're a kid is that, especially like an adult or someone that you look up to that's an older kid, is, oh, they do that too, like just have it normalized, and then it's just like a non-issue.
It's so true. It is very much about normalizing things. Well, it's kind of a good thing in a lot of ways that this generation is so much more accepting of it and can understand it. We have a household of neurodivergent kids as well. So,
do you?
Like,
all of them?
Yeah. So my two, got 5 girls, so 3 stepdaughters.
Holy, you were busy.
Yeah.
With kids and work
of my own too. So we have 2 together, and then 3 stepdaughters. My partner's got 3. 2 have ADHD. 1 has a syndrome, and she also, as part of it, is ADHD. So it's kind of like we're used to having routine and structure and understanding ADHD brains and neurodivergence and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not really a big deal for us. But growing up, for example, it was completely the opposite. Like, always being told I'm too sensitive, or just get over it, or like nothing to do with my parents necessarily, because they didn't know it. But
that was the same as me. It wasn't known back then, and they were just trying to do their best to like toughen you up, I guess.
Yeah, like, oh, everyone else can deal with it kind of thing. But you know that feeling of like sensory overwhelm, you know, the lights are too bright, there's too many sounds going on, it's like there's a smell in the air and like all these things like that. Like I'm really sensitive to smells, like people's perfumes and
like when you open the
every
fridge
sensory thing is like
and
yeah.
there's like a
Yeah.
yuck fridge smell.
Oh, yeah.
Or the bin, like I've got to take the bin out every day. Like you can't leave the bin in the, you know, like in the bag overnight. Like there'll be I don't know. I'm real sensitive about smells as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's like goes back to that highly sensitive person thing. It's like every sensory like experience or like part of our bodies is heightened.
Yeah.
We just feel things on a way deeper level. Do you find that you can feel people's like moods?
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's hard because it can affect me. So it's the energy.
It's hard when you know you're saying earlier. It is it's the energy. Like you're saying earlier, how like you know things before other people know them. I think that's the thing that's really like a bit mindfucky is when you are with somebody and you know something's off and they don't tell you that something's off, and you later find out about it and you're like, I fucking knew it.
Yeah,
but you can feel it.
Yeah, and you know what pisses me off because I can think of so many times when I knew someone was being deceitful and they were so cagey, and I asked them, you know, what's up? Nothing. I knew that they were lying or hiding something from me. Don't gaslight me. And then, you know, I'd be like, oh, you're just being all paranoid. And it's like, I think I'm really good at spotting. Well, I actually don't let a lot of people in these days, but I'm pretty good at sniffing it already if they're one of those people that are going to try and do that on me. Because it's like, if I ask you a question and I know you're lying, then I don't have time for that. I don't ask a question to just be like small talk. If I'm like, what's up? You know, I'm not just doing it as a filler. It comes down to that whole thing of everyone's got a way of living or whatever, but doesn't mesh with me if you just can't come to the table with honesty. But you can take all my honesty, but you can't be honest yourself.
Yeah.
That's where problems arise, you know, and then it's just not worth it for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard. I think, I've got a very small circle these days, and I just trust my discernment and intuition now. I don't really take people's words. I kind of just observe their behaviors and their actions, and I make a decision, and they don't even need to know my decision. I don't need to tell them because it's not worth it to get into like an argument about I'm being paranoid when I'm right.
Yeah.
Do you find that?
Yeah.
You know, like I used to be a person where it's like, I'm going to tell my truth and I'm going to give a dissertation on, I know what you've said, I know what you've done, blah, blah, blah. And then it just turns around into like, whoa, you're being psycho and you're paranoid and you're so sensitive. And it's, no, I was right. Have you read that book, The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins?
Nah, but I know about it. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, multiple times a day now, I'm telling myself, let them. You know, and like it's actually so simple when you think about it. Anyone can think anything that they want about me, you know, that I'm like rude or I don't write back to them or I've cut them off. And I just made the decision that it's not going to end well because I know what's up. And I know that you won't come to the party and it's just a waste of my energy. So I just let them think. I'm really at peace with anyone thinking any narrative when I used to be so caught up in being liked, I guess. And I think that goes back to like, you know, you're different, so you just really want to be approved of. Yeah. But then you put up with so much crap in your life and you were always right, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I think there's like an epidemic of recovering people pleasers that ADHD. I feel like I think through the motions of it.
Yeah, you were so right. It's all part of the journey, I reckon.
Yeah.
ADHD diagnosis, medication, oh shit, this doesn't fix me. Then it's who am I? And then it's like I will no longer be a people pleaser. It is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you're like finally catching up to everyone's self-esteem that they've always had.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's quite hard for me to get my head around is that I'm okay now with actually cutting people off and not have anything to do with them.
Same.
And I used to.
That's what I mean.
I used to be like, I used to be
exactly
thinking to myself,
that's exactly what I was talking about. Yeah, I don't need to explain.
It's coming to terms with coming to terms with being misunderstood, but that's okay. Our whole lives, I feel like we've had to justify why we do things because
explain.
We're so misunderstood.
Yeah. Right, like, a big explanation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And then
exactly
even
it.
then, people are just like still. It is quite scapegoaty. Like you
Yeah.
always kind of get like blamed for stuff if you speak up, even though you're like everyone else was talking about this thing. I'm the one that like put my hand up about
I
it.
know,
Like I
right?
get
It's
like this is what I struggle with sometimes.
yeah, the injustice of it, eh? It's so annoying.
It is this like need to try and like make things right, and
Yeah.
like, I'm a dog with a bone. Sometimes if something
Yes.
happens, I can't fucking back down. I was like, no, I need to get my point across. You need to listen to me, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
real hard because I think being so empathetic, you put yourself in someone's shoes sometimes too much that it actually it's
that you feel
like a bit of
sorry for them.
yeah, like I can have the most like biggest
Yeah.
asshole be rude to me and then I'm like, oh no, but he might have had a really bad day today.
They've
He's
got
probably just gone through
trauma.
separation and stuff. And then do you know what happens? And then you like make all these excuses for them. This is what happens to me quite often at work. I'll be talking to somebody and someone might like that person's a dick or whatever. And you know, being INFJ, people just like actually open up to you. All of a sudden you're like, I get why everyone thinks they're a dick because they've been through X, Y, Z. Through some really fucking hard times. And then all of a sudden you're like this person's support person. And you're like, how did I get here? How did I get here? No wonder I'm so emotionally burnt out. I'm like 50 people's emotions.
That's why they call us the counsellor and the advocate. Like we're both. Yeah. It's exhausting.
Yeah. And then you hold all this like personal information about people. And you're like, I don't need to know the fact that you've like had all these like surgeries and you've like been cheated on 10 times and this, you know.
Like it's so incredible. The stories that I get told, I always find a privilege and I always gatekeep, but still it's like, God, I hold a lot of data about people. I'll meet them. It's like,
same.
I've never told anyone this. I'm like, it's all right.
Yeah.
You know,
like,
and
come on.
yeah, I always joke, it's like someone could murder me and I'd probably understand why. Like I'd probably, you know, I'd like,
you know, I was actually thinking about that today.
Yeah. Well, there would be reasons and, you know, like I would be so, and that's so messed up.
I imagine myself sitting down, like I'm like chained to a bed or something like that, and then all of a sudden they're telling me about the fact that their mother was a narcissist and she used to abuse them, and I'm like, oh, just tell me more about that. Like that must have been really hard for you because you just default fall into the thing.
Actually,
like role.
That actually would be like we would get kidnapped and then we would be their counsellor. Like it's so true.
Do you find that you had that day one day and you look back and you're like, oh, okay, there's a reason that all these things have happened. And you kind of found your calling. Like I feel like your podcast is a really good platform for that.
Yeah. It took a while. First of all, it started with just an Instagram and I was just writing captions. I want to go back to them, but they were so lengthy because I remember wanting to cover all angles of like not offending anyone, right? Or not being taken the wrong way and like over explaining. I'm not saying this or this and so lengthy. And then now I've gotten to this point where it's, oh my God, like someone's always going to get offended these days or take it the wrong way, but that's on them. That's actually not my problem. Like I know where I'm coming from. People that love me know where I'm coming from. And even if they don't love me and they like my content, they get it. You spend so much energy trying to think of every angle to get everyone to like see your point of view. But when you actually let that go, my captions are really fucking short these days. You're going to be misunderstood. But if you know who you are and where you're coming from and other people, the right ones know, then that's all you can do. And so now I don't sit here paralyzed being, oh my God, what am I going to, like the caption. It was always the caption for me. I'd spend hours being like, how do I word this so I'm not going to offend every person on the planet by accident?
Yeah.
But now I think I'm just so firm in my values and I know who I am. And if people take it the wrong way, that's actually not my fault.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, where did that come from? Where were we going with that? Like, okay, your calling, finding your calling. Yeah. So first of all, it started with Instagram with captions and then the big scary jump into like doing the videos, which is fucking scary, right?
Yeah.
And then that led into like, getting the call up for this documentary and I was like, shit, I must be doing something right. And then I'd always had this thing in me. I'd love to do a podcast, I reckon, because I've got so much to say that you just can't say enough in like an Instagram video or a reel. And then, I just did it. And I also love having a bone to chew in terms of like learning. I love climbing the mountain. When I'm at the top of something and I feel like I've mastered it, then it's boring, you know? I love the challenge. I mean, even now, my fucking camera's shit, the lighting shit, whatever. you know, but it's like, oh, I'm going to improve that, you know. I love,
But everyone has to start somewhere.
Well, that's the thing. I also think, you know, people get so paralyzed of like perfection. The worst thing you can ever do is not start something, you know, and like also, you know, it was really scary to start all this. If you think, or if you get the feeling that if you're going to post something on social media, right, and the people around you, you're scared of them screenshotting and laughing, they're not your people, you know.
And I always think to myself, that's the same, like everything you've said, I 100% agree with.
Yeah.
And I always think to myself that if people are going to screenshot stuff like that, that is 100% insecurities that they're projecting.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They don't have their own. They don't have the guts to do.
Oh, they never will, and they never will. Like I used to be so insecure and scared, because you know sometimes you can see like who shared it, or not who, but like how many times.
Yeah.
You kind of get an idea, or you can see someone who's watched your story and doesn't follow you. But now I'm just like, go get a hobby. You are the people that will never ever do anything. And when I came across your page, I really appreciate people that put themselves out there, whether they're starting a business or doing something new. I'm never like, oh my God, look what they're doing. If that is making them happy, good for them.
Who am I to judge them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I always am happy for people that are doing something like that, you know. That was a big thing to get over, and it's quite liberating when you do though, right?
Yeah, I think it definitely is. It's a growth mindset, that constant like learning about yourself and evolving and stuff. I'm just gonna move and plug my thing.
While you're doing that, I just feel bad. I haven't like done this whole INFJ thing properly. I feel like I haven't done it justice.
We can always do it again.
Oh, fucking moth.
I don't know where the fucking plugs are in this place.
I don't know where the plugs are on this joint. Yeah, welcome to the club of bad lighting. You still look gorge.
Lovely.
Okay, breaking down the INFJ personality. I think I'm gonna put a link for people that are interested in taking these tests, because I think that this gives you like a deeper level, because not everyone with ADHD or neurodivergent is the same. I say like subtypes, right? And it's this kind of like dives in a bit more. So it stands for introverted, intuitive, feeling, and judging. So it is a personality type with all those traits. They tend to approach life with deep thoughtfulness and imagination. Their inner vision, personal values, and a quiet, principled version of humanism guide them through all things. There's a quote: treat people as if they were what they ought to be, and you help them to become what they are capable of being. Idealistic and principled, people with the INFJ personality type aren't content to coast through life. They want to stand up and make a difference. For these compassionate personalities, success doesn't come from money or status, but from seeking fulfillment, helping others, and being a force for good in the world. While they have lofty goals and ambitions, they shouldn't be mistaken for idle dreamers. People with this personality type care about integrity, and they're really satisfied until they've done what they know to be right. Conscientious to the core, they move through life with a clear sense of their values, and they aim to never lose sight of what truly matters, not according to other people or society at large, but according to their own wisdom and intuition. Yes, it's like we're born with like the law, you know?
Yeah.
They might come across as somewhat reserved, but they're fueled by a profound internal passion. Stimulated by deep reflective thought and an enormous amount of empathy, they dedicate themselves to the pursuit of purpose. And perhaps because their personality type is so uncommon, they tend to carry around, whether they're conscious or not, of being different from most people. They have rich inner lives and deep abiding desire to find their life purpose, and they don't always fit in with those around them. That isn't to say that they can't enjoy social acceptance or close relationships, only that they sometimes feel misunderstood, at odds with the world. Yes, fortunately, the sense of being out of step doesn't diminish their commitment to making the world a better place. These personalities are troubled by injustice, and they typically care more about altruism than personal gain. They feel called to use their strengths, including creativity, imagination, sensitivity to uplift and spread compassion. This is just so us, right? Nothing lights up an NFJ like changing someone else's life for the better. They see helping others as their mission in life. They're always looking for ways to step in and speak up for what is right. They also aspire to fix society's deeper problems in the hope that unfairness and hardship can become things of the past. However, they may focus so intently on their ideals that they don't take adequate care of themselves, a pattern that can lead to stress and burnout. I mean, all this stuff is just like so us, right? Yeah, they feel that their life has a unique purpose, a mission that they were put on this earth to fulfill. For them, that is the most rewarding aspect of life, is seeking this purpose. And then once they've found it, striving to do it justice. When they encounter inequality or fairness, they really give up. Instead, they consult their intuition and compassion to find a solution. With their innate ability to balance the heart with the head, these dedicated types are hardwired to right the wrongs of the world, no matter how big or small. That's how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
These personalities just need to remember that while they're busy taking care of everyone else, they need to pause and take care of themselves as well, which we're talking with. That was a lesson learned the hard way, right? You got to put your own oxygen mask on first, because we're just so dedicated. But like that sums it up, really. Do you think?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'd love to know if there's any more, especially New Zealanders, ADHD women out there like us. We're not the only ones, but
There's got to be just like me, and I guess like you, it's been through the motions of learning to cope with it, that intense empathy and like compassion and wanting to like change the world and figuring out the best way to do it. Is that you very much, like you said, like have to put your oxygen mask on first.
And you can't save everyone.
You can't. And I learned that lesson the hard way. I know now what was 100% emotional burnout. Like my body shut down, and I got like 17 mouth ulcers, my tongue swelled up and stuff like that. I was so unwell.
Because there's only one of you. You can't like save the whole world, Lyd.
I wanted to. Yeah, like that's the problem. It's like you don't know how to stop. And I think that's it. Is it? And it's like where's the line drawn between INFJ as a personality and what's ADHD? Because there's compulsion with ADHD, and you're like, I have to keep going until I physically can't do anymore. Like that's a reality.
Yeah. But I feel like this is just such a, like, this is kind of an extra layer, because even with me, like I used to reply to like anyone that was in the DMs, right? And then now I'm like, I can see that there are especially men that they're like trying to sweet talk, and I kind of laugh because I'm like, oh, that's so cute. Like, you think you can handle this, Jandal? With like the real basic kind of things of flattery. And it's just like, oh gosh, like you just don't know how psychotic I am in terms of like, you don't know, like I've already figured you out. I don't need to tell you that though, but I also don't need to reply. They're just not worth the time.
Yeah.
I don't look at it as being mean. It's just more like, no, I've got to like reserve myself for like the right people that I do reply to, or like you, or do you know what I mean? Because you do get people out of the woodwork, and you don't even know like half the people. I can see the motives pretty clearly, especially with the men, pretty obvious. But I used to feel like bad, but now it's like, no, like you're pushing it now, and so you don't need a reply.
Yeah.
You
don't owe them any of your energy.
No, but it's like that whole like, maybe they've like lost their mother or something. Do you know what I mean?
I know.
Like, you're just like, you don't know, like they could be really in a bad place right now.
Spirals, and you're like, what if I was the last person that they messaged?
Oh no, don't even go there. No, I know.
Like this is the problem of like this overactive mind, and that's where we talk about like,
and looking at every
ADHD,
angle,
like,
what happens with a human. And it's like, I learned that as well. You go mad. Because psychoanalyzing people is like a big part of it, right?
Yeah.
And we can't help it. We actually can't help it. But then I've got to draw the line. You just can't give every piece of you to everyone that tries it, And that's it's just, the world's always like, there's parts of the world that are always going to be cruel, and there's always going to be some manipulative people, and it's just, you got to also like be a fighter back, or just not tolerate it, really, because we can like just give and give and give and give and give, because they might be having a bad day, or they could, we could be the last person they message, like, thanks, that's never been put in my head, thanks, Lyd. Like,
no, but
I get what you mean.
Oh, just one example.
And like, I don't know how I don't know how you're functioning. You've got 5 girls in a household, you've got a busy career, and then you've got this brain. And you look very calm.
Someone said to me the other day, I asked him, I was just genuinely like, what's your, like, we must have talked about something, and I said, how would you describe me? And he says, you're very calm. And I thought, that's so interesting, what people can see, because internally it's just like this mind is racing all the time.
You've got a very calm energy about you. I mean, I can see that like there's tension deep down with like the shoulders maybe in the back, because there's like actually stuff going on in there. But I think like the face, but I think deep down I can see the tension. Yeah.
I can feel it.
No, yeah, like I can just like, you're not just like, you're like rigid relaxed.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot going on in your head.
Yeah, it's also I'm just like trying not to because I moved. I don't want Nick to be like, "Oh, you're talking too loud."
Oh, okay.
Not that he would. Edit.
I'm actually on a podcast.
But I thought that was interesting when he said that to me, because it just goes to show we're so critical of ourselves and what we think of ourselves, because we see every single like good.
Oh, even when you said about your eyebrow, and I'm like, what?
That would probably have fucked me off. Like,
yeah, but like
watching his videos and stuff.
And that's the thing, when people get in this paralysis about posting videos and content, and I always remind myself, everyone is so concerned about themselves and about their Instagram posts. No one is thinking of some ridiculous thing. And then I just think, like, I will never be as young as I am in this moment right now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm older now. Oh, I'm older now, Like, and then we're all going to die. So, like, really, in the grand scheme of things, we're just really nothings. So post it.
We are right.
Just post it,
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I'm talking to myself when I talk to you sometimes, because you pretty much say the same thing, or I have the same philosophy in terms of how I live my life.
Yeah.
But very much I think, really bad experiences or adversity can obviously reshape your thinking and stuff like that, and you do get more resilient. Obviously, it can be fucking hard sometimes, no doubt about that. But I guess like grief and death has taught me that life is so short and it can just change at any second. And I don't want to be the person sitting on my deathbed and thinking, I wish I'd said those things or told people those things. And that definitely comes across in my behavior. Like if I talk to somebody and I feel like I might have affected them or something had happened, or if I talk to somebody, I'm like, I want to tell them something, I will be the type of person to be like, oh, you've got something on your face, or
I think it's actually not being a good person if you don't tell them that there's something in their teeth.
Yeah.
You know how
the amount of times, like the other day I got in the car and I'd had a big piece of like green broccoli in my tooth, and I'd been in like yelling to people and stuff like that, and I was like, fuck you guys, no one told me that.
No, the worst is when you're like, oh my God, why didn't you tell me? And they're lying and you can see it, and they're like, I didn't see it. You did, and now you're lying about it. I just don't understand that straight away, right? Even if I didn't know someone at a retail store, I'd be like, oh, you've got some mayo there. Like, I'll help a sis out.
I was in Pack and Save in Auckland when I lived up there.
Yeah.
And this girl had walked in, and you know how they have the I Love value, like when you first come in, she had tucked her skirt into her undies.
Oh.
And I know, and she's reaching up to get something, and I was like, I'm really sorry, but your skirt's tucked into your undies. And she pulled it out, but the amount of people who would have seen her walking and like, no one had done anything, and I was like, that's so sad.
The worst thing that ever happened to me that just reminded me, tangent, was when I don't know if you've been to like Soul Bar restaurant in Auckland in the Viaduct. It's just one of those like see and be seen places. Anyway, I went there a few years ago, and I was wearing this floaty dress, and I went to the bathroom, came out. It was December. It was lunchtime. Everyone was having their Christmas parties, and I was walking out, and I noticed everyone was looking at me, and I'm like, must be my nice dress. And then anyway, my two friends were standing down there, and they cracked, like they couldn't breathe, crying. And then one of them gets their phone out. I'm not even joking. I had a train on a wedding dress. It was like that, but it was toilet roll. Like, it was so, it was like dry. I don't know, like, don't ask me how this happened, but I don't know. Girls know this can happen sometimes, right? And it was so long. And no one helped me. Everyone stared. I thought they were staring at me because I was looking good that day. My friends couldn't breathe. And then anyway, one of them gets out filming. To be fair, I would have filmed it too because it was that damn long. And then anyway, I didn't know what to do, and I just ran. And then she grabbed it, and it broke in half. But so I still had half a tail. Like, it just kept going, and then I'm like, what do I do? Like, I just like pull it out, but then there's like I'm holding toilet paper. All the Christmas parties, the sun was beaming. It was a busy day at the Viaduct, and then here's me.
That's so funny.
Yeah, and I just thought of all those dickheads that I'd walked past, the strangers. If I had seen that happen, I would have jumped on her. I would have jumped on that girl. I would have jumped on the train. I would have just, I would have intervened.
Yeah. You wouldn't have let her
No.
deal with that.
I mean, look, I love a funny story. It actually was one of my funniest, but that could like really damage someone's self-esteem, that kind of thing, What if that was like their work party? It wasn't for me, but why do people I don't know. Like I would always instantly like help you out, and then I'm not gonna lie and be like, oh my God, no, I didn't notice. Yes, you did.
Yeah, I don't know why people are like that, eh?
It's like they're embarrassed.
They're embarrassed by people perceiving them.
Do you know what's the worst though?
Doing
Chia
it.
seeds.
I was eating some I put chia in my brownie earlier. Like a mix with LSA and chia.
Okay, like chia seeds, they're the worst though, eh?
They are the worst. And they go like that
because they
jelly
expand, because they get like a jelly
Yeah.
coating.
Yeah.
How did we get onto this? There's just a
I
lot
don't
of
know.
things we need to fix in the world, Lyd. There's
Yeah.
two of us now,
Yeah, a lot.
but we can't
Yeah,
save
be good to know
everyone.
how
We can't save everyone
we
with toilet
can't.
paper hanging out their undies, you know?
Yeah. It's really hard though. I think this is what I majorly struggle with the most is I genuinely believe that you're talking about before about like that calling and like finding meaning and purpose and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Finding that in the world that we live in is really hard. I think I'm getting closer to it. And I think the more I show up on Instagram and I'm honest about stuff, I feel better. Like I feel like I'm more aligned with my message, and
it gets easier,
Yeah.
I find.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. I actually think that you followed me after I posted a reel about are we allowed to just have bad days?
Oh, yes.
Something like that.
That was it. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's normalize bad. There's no good and bad emotions. It's just emotion, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you know, sometimes I'll be sad about something that's happened. There's kind of a line in the sand where it's like, hey, I'm no longer sad about this anymore. And therefore that's it, move on. It's, you know, sometimes you can get tripped up and like cry about it, but that's fine, you know?
Yeah.
But there's this, I feel like there's this whole view of sadness is a bad emotion. Why are you sad? And you're still sad. I'm just having like a moment, and, you know, I'm quite aware, okay, like, but you got 10 minutes and then like get on with it. I don't know about you, but like when I suppress emotions, that ain't good. That'll explode.
Yeah.
At an inappropriate time.
Yeah.
You know?
You have to like reteach yourself stuff, eh? And it's very much like reparenting yourself. I think part of it is becoming a mother, and then also like going through the ADHD thing and understanding my brain and how it works and all these things. But all the times that I told myself I was too much, or I was too sensitive, or I couldn't deal with it, or I wasn't smart enough, or I was, you know, like all these fucking dumb things that I was told I was either too much or not enough. It's just like,
that's exactly like you never win. It's like you're too much, or you're not enough. It's a mind F, that's why.
Yeah. And I think that's what I'm trying to like really work on is I'm just going to exist. I'm just literally just going to be like, if I want to do this and I'm not hurting anybody, I'm going to do it.
That's my philosophy.
Like that whole like should thing is fucking dumb.
Yeah.
I should go and see this person. I should do. Why the fuck should you?
Yeah.
You don't need to. There's no rules.
Yeah, just let them be disappointed in you, or like let them be annoyed.
Oh.
I really don't even like this person anymore. You know?
Yeah, I'm just doing it because I feel like I have to.
You spend so much time doing things you should be doing. It doesn't make anyone happy. It makes you resentful. It makes you get burnout. At the end of the day, you got to sit in the feeling of someone not liking you, or someone being disappointed or annoyed, and then move on.
Like you know, what's more important, that you like stick to your truth, or that you're constantly compromising for other people?
Yeah.
That's the thing, and it's really uncomfortable for a long time until you realize actually this is what's right for you.
Yeah, because those people don't do it for you, usually, you know.
Yeah. I remembered what I was going to say ages ago.
Yeah.
One of them was that I realized as I've got older as well is that as much as that I am sensitive and I feel things.
Yeah.
I had a discussion with my mum the other day. I love my mum, but very similar, I think, is what, you know, we have quite a few clashes sometimes. And I said to her, I'm not gonna not be too sensitive anymore. I'm just gonna be me. And she was like, you have to remember sometimes that some people are maybe not so used to like the intensity of discussions.
I get that a lot. I'm intense.
Yeah, and that's what I get as well. I was like, fuck, you're intense. And it's just like, but I am intense. So I said to her, I was like, I am, and this is me. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to change parts of me to make other people more comfortable. And I said, this is the part where I realize that I can communicate really well. Yeah. And I'm really assertive, and I get to the point and stuff like that. And I use my words, not meaning condescending, but I use my words
you were just like me. Like, we're very communicative.
Yeah. And I think that that's something that a lot of people actually don't have, is that while I may come across as intense and like I'm so passionate about things, and fuck yes, I info dump, and my mum like says that I lecture her and stuff like that. Like it is because I'm passionate and I want to like get it out. Yeah. But at the same time, people have to be able to be like, hey, okay, sorry, I don't have time for this, or I know that you're passionate about it, but can we just not, it's not going to offend me necessarily, but some people would rather not do that. And I was like, that's actually...
Yeah, and they pull away and they just don't see you anymore. And my big thing that
just tell me why you feel the way you do. Like, use your words to explain that to me instead of like making up something. Or
because we know already what you're doing. I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm actually still coming to terms with being too intense. Like the sensitive one, I'm fine. Everything else I'm fine, but I think I'm so intense. And I mean, maybe because like are you married or just...
No, engaged.
Okay, well, like you've got a partner, right? So it's like you're kind of safe. Like, do you know what I mean? Whereas for me, it's like I'm not going to change myself, but I don't think there's many out there that could match my freak.
Your energy.
Yeah, or just not even that. Like they don't need to be as intense as me, but just not be freaked out or, whoa, can't handle it, or like, whoa, communication, can't handle it. I'm still coming to terms with I can't change who I am, and I can't change being intense. Like, yes, I can be immature and crass and funny and sensitive, but then I can be really intellectual, intense, and really communicative, and that scares so many people away. But I can't change that anymore. And, it's like there's not many people for me, but that's better than living a life of diluting yourself just because they can't take a full shot, can't dilute it, take me at 100% proof or not at all. The intense thing's been hard because I get like more hurt when I get told like, oh, you're just a lot and you're just so intense, and like that's my recent thing. Everything else I'm good with, but there's not many people that love the intense.
Or they'll love it when it suits them.
Oh yeah, or when they need someone on their side, or like to listen to them. But when it's like, oh, like I want to be shallow now, Like I just wanted you to like psychoanalyze my problems and help me, but now it's like you can put that back in the bag.
I see what you mean. I thought you were gonna be shallow. I was like, I'm here for it.
Oh, it can always be like, I can oscillate. It can be like childish humor, You never know.
I think that's
keeps it interesting.
Part is that it does keep it interesting. I can be like so fucking immature about stuff, but then also so serious.
Yes.
And like how I can't describe exactly what it is that I don't really know who I am because I'm two different people a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's the whole paradox thing.
It is paradoxes, and it's so fucking confusing.
That's what that personality type is. It's like you're a paradox.
Yeah.
Can be so intense and intellectual, but then lose it because like, someone's farted or something and it's so funny. You never know. Can get both at the same time. You can like really switch really quickly. Okay, I have taken up so much of your time, but I've loved it as per because we're very intellectual, intense people. So we're going to wrap it up because we've been talking for so long and we could keep talking, but we have to go to bed and we've got lives to get up to in the morning. But Lydia, I just wanted to say thank you so much for finally joining me, and that was a lot on me. I know we talked about it last year. We need to do an episode, but then it was just, life, December. But we finally did it and we finally aligned. It only took maybe like half an hour of me being like, yep, I'm coming on. I'll send you a link. So anyway, I just want to say thank you. I love our chats. I'm just so happy that I met you on the For You page scrolling as per. And see, I never know what to say at the end of it. It's so weird.
I don't know. Do I say anything?
If you want to.
Should I just cut in here and then be like, sorry.
Just say something shallow.
Okay. Yeah, and I really appreciate being on your podcast. I've been wanting to chat with you for ages, and so it's worked out really well. And I'm sure we could talk all day about stuff.
Yes.
Especially the INFJ and just like other random topics and tangents. So I really appreciate it.
Always. Oh good, my dog's barking, so that's perfect because she hasn't barked the whole time. Okay, thanks Lyd, and I'll probably talk to you in a minute. No, we'll go to sleep, but thank you so much, and toodles everyone.
Toodles.